Tell me something. What goes on in the head of a person in front of a closed door when they don't really know if they're wanted? If they open the door, they're either transgressing or fulfilling someone's desire.
Vale, muchas gracias.
Thank you very much. Well, good morning. Hi, good morning, everyone. Hi, good morning, everyone. Hi, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the 72nd San Sebastian International Film Festival and this press conference. We're presenting the inaugural film, the opening film, Emmanuelle, and you know how things work. Raise your hand and I'll give you the floor. But before we start, I'm going to ask the first question, okay? So my question has to do, and it's the... excuse me, I forgot to introduce, this is live, I forgot to introduce who's sitting down with us here today. So we've got... So I'm going to start from the far end. We've got the actress, CHACHA HUANG, the actor, NOEMIE, MERLANT, director, AUDREY DIWAN, actor, SHARPE, and the other actor, CAMPBELL. Okay? And as we're in the opening, let's give a big round of applause for the inaugural and opening film. So my first question is for the director of the film, AUDREY DIWAN, and it has to do, well, with the original material from where this film starts, the original film, Emmanuelle, in '72. I meant the erotic films. This is you're always thinking, and I was talking about eroticism, and more than a physical exercise is the movement of a soul, for example. And this adaptation is quite different to that film way back when. And what was never focused upon the character of the character Emmanuelle, and this film is completely different, the way it's directed as well, and the approach is different. What was the biggest challenge for you to adapt this film vis-a-vis in comparison to the original film way back when?
First of all, I said that I didn't adapt the movie, and the reason is very simple. I've never seen it. I mean, I saw maybe 20 minutes of it back in times, and I had the feeling that I wasn't the audience. But my producers gave me the book, and I read it out of curiosity, because I don't know if it's the same here, but the name resonated very strongly in my country, and I wanted to understand where it comes from. And I was mainly interested by a long discussion at the two-thirds of the book. And it's a very long discussion about eroticism. And first of all, I asked myself, as a filmmaker, can we still use a language that is based on that kind of grammar, cinematographic grammar, which means when you talk about eroticism, it's what you hide and what you show. And of course, the first movie in the 70s was strong in everybody's memory, because he was about to open the frame, and he did. Whereas here, I'm trying to do something else. I want to restrain the frame in order to see if it can work together. Can I convene the audience imagination, and can I have people working with me using the off-screen? And we all know that nowadays, if you want to see everything, you have internet and pornography. So does it still work to ask people to work with the movie? That was the first thing. Then I gave back the book, and nothing happened for a few months. And one day, I'm thinking about a woman that I named Emmanuelle in my mind, and she asked me questions about our relationship to pleasure in society. She doesn't feel pleasure, but I didn't intend it to talk about pleasure as only sexual pleasure. I wanted to ask myself about how we treat pleasure in our society, how we are asked to profit, climax, be the best of ourselves and successful. And I was thinking when we're asked for so much, do we still have pleasure? Are we performing? Is performance the main thing when you talk about pleasure, or is there still place for something else? And then I've started thinking about that woman, and I asked the producer, and I don't know how was the experience for you, but can I get rid of the past? Can I only be concentrated on that woman and her body in that situation and how she related to that world? And can we all try to feel what she feels and see how she comes back to life if she can?
Hola, buenos días.
Hi, good morning. I would like to ask Audrey, could you go further in depth in what you're explaining? Why did you consider it was necessary to revise this story in the current situation, framework 2024, that is to say, because it's a time of women that we're living at the present moment. And I would like to ask NOEMIE MERLANT, for example, how did you address this physical role, and whether the shadow of Sylvia Crystal accompanied you, or did you decide to leave her to one side to concentrate on the film and to portray the role that you want, the way you wanted?
I think it was exciting as an idea to talk about this strange thing, which is female pleasure, the complex system that we have inside and how it works, and how fantasy comes from, I mean, not the body, because when you're more than 20s, I mean, I'm not interested in transgression because it has been told before, but something more close to my age, even if she isn't my age. But I started from there thinking there is another time of the life when you realize body has limits, obviously, and if you want to get back to yourself, you have to make some room, some space for the other. You have to fantasize, you have to give time to the other, and step by step create a story in your mind and with the other. And my project, and soon I'll know if it works or not, we were asked as women to get into men's experience most of our lives. And actually, it works. We were asked to project ourselves in male experience, sexually, of course, as well. And I believe that we can work beyond gender, and that it also works on the opposite side, that everybody can try to be in that woman's body and maybe feel what she feels. And I think I want to invite everybody in that experience. I would not like the movie to be, oh, we are talking about female pleasure, so it's a movie for female and nobody else involved in that movie. I would think it's sad. And by the way, what makes me quite optimistic is that I had the experience of my previous movie. And with Happening, I realized that many men were coming to me after the screening and they have pain in their stomach, in their body. So we can actually share pain. And if we can share pain, I believe we can share pleasure. But that's her. She made it happen. Tu peux parler de comment tu as approché le rôle?
Thank you for your question. I never heard about Emmanuelle before this. Maybe because it's not my generation, but I never...
She's saying she's young.
I never heard about it, so I haven't read the book or saw the movie. But when Audrey proposed me the role, I was telling to people around me, and people were saying, oh no, it's too dangerous. Look what happened to Sylvia Crystal. It was... So then I heard about the Emmanuelle and what happened, and I was, okay, so if people are so scared, it means that there is something to talk about, because it's not normal to, to not be able to share an experience and talk about erotism and sex with the gaze of a director, a woman director. We need to talk about it, and for me it's I was very curious and happy because Audrey and The Happening, and I love her gaze and her work, and I was very curious and excited to read the script, and I had a very strong connection. For me, Emmanuelle, I saw me in her. At the beginning of the movie, you have a woman that, Emmanuelle, that doesn't belongs to her. Her body, like she is responding to the diktats of her society, and she doesn't get pleasure. She always tries to make people happy and people satisfied. And she's like a robot. And then we have this trip with her, this story with her, when she's trying to really be Emmanuelle, to really have a connection with her, with Emmanuelle, and to get her pleasure and to let go everything. And for me, it makes a lot of sense. So I say yes.
and we worked a lot together on how to let it go, by the way.
Yes, that was very interesting, actually.
Hi, question here from Brazil, Rodrigo Fonseca, Correio da Manhã. First of all, congratulations for a film that has such a high level of good dialogues. The writing is amazing. I would like to ask you two things, Mrs. DIWAN. The first of all, during the whole projection this morning, I kept some references in my mind, like Nagisa Oshima and Pier Paolo Pasolini, directors who reinvent the way of showing eroticism. And I would like to share my impressions with you to understand to what tradition did you approach to build up the eroticism in the film? And the second question, how could we apply the word love to your Emmanuelle?
Very interesting, very tricky. Thank you very much. Talking about reference, I mean, of course, we're inspired by every movie we see, and you're talking about major filmmakers. What was important to me is to consider that, you know, there are many definitions of eroticism. What I was trying to do is not to picture eroticism only through sexual sequence, but to create an atmosphere, this special atmosphere that makes how people look to each other. We worked on that. Can be eroticism. Words can be eroticism. Even a storm can be eroticism. So we all work, our all work together was to find the right tone to let everyone stay in that world. And it's important to me because I wanted to give a space to the audience to project their own sensations and to, I mean, interpret the movie in their own way. I think we deserve movies that don't give all the answers, not deserve, but I need as an audience to have answers, to have a movie that doesn't tell me what to think, but invite me to give my feelings. So we were trying to create that tone and to enjoy being in that strange atmosphere, but also in order to give space to the audience. Oh, sorry, I forgot about love, strange. Funny. I remember the Todd Haynes movie that I love with Julianne Moore, and at the end of the movie, in front of a mirror, she says, "I love you," and she says it to herself. And I think as a woman, and maybe from my experience, before you can truly say that word, you have to be able to be in front of that mirror and to say, "I love you." So I guess Emmanuelle's ready.
Can I answer something?
Yeah, of course. You are Emmanuelle. You can even say the opposite, as I just said. If you want to tell me that she's in love, I'm ready.
No, I want to respond in French because I want to be
Can
about that.
Can someone translate if she answers in French?
They will have...
Okay.
Or maybe I can do it. Or not.
Je pense que c'est très intéressant aujourd'hui. Oula. Je pense que c'est très intéressant aujourd'hui.
I think it's very interesting nowadays.
De femmes qui prennent du
It's very interesting to have women who feel pleasure and women who seek sex stories or sensual stories without necessarily feeling in love. And the truth is, we've never had this before.
Because we have a lack of those image of women getting involved in sexual.
Es interesante que hemos visto mujeres que están en relaciones sexuales intentando buscar su propio placer,
Looking for love, that we have the right to
Just
do
want
it.
to have sex and get pleasure.
Just sex, not imply that we need love to have sex, and that's part of the freedom of the character as well.
But thank you for your question.
Hola, buenos días.
Hi, good morning. Madia de Rico, de Nótico. I would like to, it's a film which is a strange film coming from Audrey DIWAN. Why? Because you come of doing the l'événement happening. So therefore you felt it like a type of provocation, because not only the film, it's making Emmanuelle again. Emmanuelle, I was a child, I haven't even seen it, but I'm asking myself, because NOEMIE MERLANT said before, it was risky. All women, we all look at you with a sort of concern.
Es interesante.
No, it's very interesting, but precisely, I would like you, quite sincerely, tell us what were your emotions when they give you this film, because it's not a film, it's not an original idea. What was the deep reason why Audrey DIWAN accepts remaking an icon, doubtfully feminist, such as is Emmanuelle back then?
Good question. Honestly, I have two answers to give you. The first one is that after winning the Golden Lion, I really told myself that I would never create in a zone of comfort. I normally like to feel excitement and fear when I start writing, so Emmanuelle was perfect. And also, I think I started thinking about that woman and her loneliness, because it's how I felt back then. Probably I was told forever that I need to succeed in a way. Probably my mother told me I need to succeed, but maybe nobody actually believed I would do it. Not that way. And then there is some kind of a strange moment when you feel disconnected from others, and the only thing you're seeking for is true relationship. So I always intend to use very intimate and sincere thing that I actually go through as an experience in order to write. And I also wanted, and I would love to give the mic to my actors, because I wanted also to create a world. And a hotel is a small, strange world, this hotel particularly. She doesn't come from that social class. And I wanted to create a world when we can actually share the feeling of loneliness and then do the exact opposite and step by step connect. And that was our work together. How do Emmanuelle meet people? There is no opponent in the movie, and I tell you something. It's a nightmare to write a movie when there is no opponent. The only obstacle is inside, so that was hard to find. And I like the way they all help her. In a way, they're mirrors, and they give her insights to tell her, hey, open the door and breathe. You need to breathe. They made you think this is paradise, but it's an artificial paradise, and all together, we're going to go from fake to truth through the sensations. But that was our work, and if you do agree, I would like the actors to say a word about that, about how, I mean, you experience being that guy who tell her they're like mirrors. Mm-hmm. Go back to yourself, ask the right questions. And now I should have a precise question for you to talk about it.
I mean, I guess the interesting thing about Kay for me was that it felt like the more we rehearsed it and the more we talked about the script, the more it felt like he was a part of Emmanuelle, actually, and not, almost not a person in himself. We talked about him as a sort of ghost or like
fantasy,
a figment of her imagination, and that was like an interesting thing to try and, I suppose, like get into. In the end, I just sort of had to surrender, I think, to the idea that yeah, his independence is actually, it's there to, it's a generous, he needed to find a way to be generous and giving within the relationship, and ultimately that was where it sort of ends up, really, is he's a character who seemingly has put his own needs to the side. And yeah, that was very interesting to play.
Jamie, Chacha, si queréis, yo acabo de ver la película también y me ha parecido que
Just seeing the film, Jamie and Chacha, there are some characters that are very demanding at an intimate level for both actors, and also security, and also creating the mystery of in very few moments. So therefore, I'm not too sure whether Chacha and Jamie, can you talk about your experience in portraying your roles in this film, which I consider to be very interesting, by the way?
Go ahead.
May I do first?
Yeah.
Thank you. Well, I have to say, since the beginning, when I read the description of the Zelda for the audition, it just interested me so much, in a sense, because in a conventional or male-gazed film, an Asian girl most of the times are portrayed in a very sexually cold way. And in this film, there is this Asian girl tries to guide a French girl to find her self-pleasure and try to know how to love herself and find this pleasure. I think it's wonderful. That's why I did the audition. I was so excited about it when Audrey gave me the role.
You should tell the truth about what happened.
And well, I saw there is notice that they're looking for an actress for this movie, and I really wanted to do the audition, and I didn't get any news from the casting director. So one day I was like, should I just write her a direct message on Instagram? It's really unprofessional and it looks really desperate. So I doubted a few days, and then one day I was like, what would Zelda do? I'm like, yeah, she just write the message and get the job, you know, like, so in this sense, I think since the beginning, Zelda just pushed me and inspired me, so I wrote this message directly
The message was beautiful, smart, and I tell my husband, it's her. I've been looking for the actress, but I know it's her, and then she arrived, did the audition, and that was obvious, it was her.
Yeah, and what's so funny now, I remembered, like, I signed CHACHA/Zelda. Because, you know, at that moment, I was in my character already.
But this character is supposed to embody freedom, and CHACHA/Zelda is already free to write directly to me to explain she's the one, so that works.
Yeah. And I really like the idea that the Zelda was trying to mentor or help Emmanuelle to find herself, to find this self-love and pleasure, and to give herself to herself and just let it go, right?
And with Jamie, we did a very different work. He helped me a lot, and we all did as well writing. We were talking about the characters, and you directed me and you helped me with the character.
Just to change a couple of things here and there, just ways round of words, you know, just to kind of have
Not
it
only,
flowing.
but-
And I mean, we spoke a lot about the musicality of how he sounded and going through that. But the audition process, I remember I was actually out for a drive, and I got the sides through, and I pulled over on the side of the road, and I read this thing, and I cried. Which was really bizarre. It was a very, very strange day. And so I got home and I did the tape, and then the first time that you and I spoke, we barely spoke about the project. We actually ultimately spoke about fear, was all we spoke about.
But what a delicious feeling. That's a sentence I remember for the whole movie.
Exactly. You said, how are you? And I said, I'm fucking terrified. I'm so scared. And so we spoke about that. And I think, you know, with Sir John, it was interesting. I remember asking Audrey sort of halfway through the process for all of them, I was like, it feels like Emmanuelle's going through this kind of Dante's Inferno journey, and Kay's like this kind of, I don't know, Virgil kind of character leading her through this experience. Is that what you see? And you didn't say anything, you just went, huh? And I was like, oh, that doesn't answer my question at all. Like, and I suppose, you know, the thing is it's just about liberation of the soul. It's about freedom, and is Sir John free? I mean, I suppose he'd like to think of himself as being free. He's described as an ogre. He's definitely a man who wants as much as he can possibly get, but he's also shackled by his hatred for this one woman that he works with. So is he free? Probably not, probably not. But it was just a beautiful experience. I loved the whole process of just being there and being with you and being in your world. You know, it did feel very much like we were just immersed in this whole journey. It's beautiful.
Hola.
Hi, good morning. I would like to ask a question. I'd like to ask a couple of questions, one for the director and one for the rest of the actors. For the actors, Noémie, you said you didn't initially know Emmanuelle, whether the rest of the actors had any reference of the original Emmanuelle, shall we say, or whether they didn't have it. And the director, I would like to ask you a couple of things about the technical side of things, the sound, especially the intimate moments. I'm not too sure whether you treated them specifically or specially, or how were they recorded, and also the color, how you treated the color, because the film starts with a bit colder tones, and at the end, they're obviously completely different. So therefore, because of the development of Emmanuelle's role, obviously, how did you deal with all of those issues? Thank you.
Do you want to start? Alors, j'ai pas compris. Okay. Le début, c'était pour demander aux autres acteurs si eux aussi n'avaient pas...
Yes.
Can you answer about
I haven't seen the original Emmanuelle film, but I was aware of it. I'd heard about it and was aware of its kind of notoriety. So when the project came in, I was excited because I was a big fan of Audrey's The Happening, but I was also very curious to see how the maker of that film and the reputation of Emmanuelle, sort of what does that mean when you put them together. And I don't really know what I was expecting when I started to read the script, but similar to Jamie, I remember just sort of finding myself kind of surrendering to the world of the film. And I think I felt like it was like a sort of odyssey, like a kind of feminist odyssey. And we're so immersed in Emmanuelle's point of view and her perspective. And so yeah, I don't really have like a strong point of reference to the original, and deliberately didn't go back to refer to it because it felt like the intention was to make a completely new film.
It was. And talking about, you know, when you want to give the audience a movie that works through sensation, then you have to use every tool you have. The whole process of the movie was to go from something fake to something that feels true. So we worked on the sound a lot, and I love to do it because when you are in those hotels, even if that hotel doesn't really exist, it's a bit more than reality, but you don't hear anything from the outside, and you don't even hear your own step on the floor because you have this big rug everywhere. And everything is perfect, but in a way where you don't feel anything because it's the same music every day, the same perfume, the set. I mean, if you do this one night, the next morning it's there again. So it's eternal presence, and you don't have the feeling of time anymore. So the sensation goes in a way where you can't feel. If you feel the same thing, if you do the same thing every day, you're not going to feel anything anymore. And then step by step, we disorganize that. And the storm is there to create a bit of chaos and say, hey, nature is interesting. Probably we should let the chaos in the hotel, and it gives her the desire to be somewhere else. And then we are in Hong Kong, and when you open the door, I mean, Hong Kong is all about the humid air that you have on your face, and the city is screaming, and you have neon lights everywhere. So I really wanted to give the feeling that I had myself when I went there. By the way, we were all in the hotel, and we lived with the crew in the hotel, and it was open, so it was tricky. There were clients, but we had the feeling of how it is to be in such a perfect paradise, but everything is the same every day. And this vertigo that she's in, we all felt it in a way. We were all like, oh, that's the experience you see on Instagram everywhere, because I think that our society keeps showing those places, and then suddenly you're there, and you feel stuck in that world, and the only thing you want to do is open the door and let it go somewhere else.
Also, just to say, I feel like Audrey is such a precise and deliberate director that if you find yourself wondering if the choice was deliberate, it's definitely deliberate. Like down to every gesture, like the pattern of speech.
Obsession.
And I loved the use of sound in the film as well.
Thank you.
Vale, desgraciadamente tenemos que dejarlo aquí.
Unfortunately, we have to finish here, so a big round of applause for, and congratulations for the premiere this evening. Thank you.